Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're talking about the power of clarity. That's why we're honored to have with us someone known as the King of Clarity. We're talking with Steve Woodruff. He's an author, a speaker, and so much more. His two books are The Point and also Clarity Wins. So we're going to talk all about clarity and communication. But Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing just great. I grew up in New England. I'm used to cold weather, but then moving back down here to Nashville 10 years ago, it's like, no, I really don't want this winter stuff anymore.
Well, when you talk about all the good you're doing, there's a lot to talk about, but let's start on your end with a little bit of your backstory, because you've got the books and obviously those really point toward clarity, but give us some background on how you like to frame being the King of Clarity.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that we all have in businesses as individuals, companies, large brands, teams, is how do we answer the question, who are you and what do you do? And that's the question we all have to answer all the time. And turns out that most people don't have a good answer for that question. They'll either just say, well, I'm a so-and-so title with this and this company, which is just a generic fact. Or maybe they'll come out with a heavy elevator pitch. And I believe that the best way to do this, because our brains are so overloaded with information, we've got to get right to the point with something interesting, relevant, and vivid, what I call a memory dart. And all of my work in sales and marketing and consulting has revolved around, over the decades, how do you communicate in a distilled, effective, memorable fashion? That is my passion.
You think about sports, it starts with fundamentals and then it's doing it over and over and over, right? It's practice, it's repetition. And so when you talk about a memory dart and being effective with communication, talk about those fundamentals, but also too, how you practice and put all this in motion.
The fundamentals are, and this has been well known for generations, this is not new to me, the human brain likes information in certain formats. We like little snippets. We like stories. We like statistics. We like comparisons. This is this, but not that. It's because we have to use a certain frame of reference in our mind to embrace a new concept. And so word pictures, analogies, all of this. So fundamentally, what we've got to do is say, look, here are the brain-friendly ways to communicate. How can I take what I do as a person or a company and package it in these little packages of words that instantly turn the light on? Because the fact is we're competing with Netflix, smartphones, screens, a thousand things, now AI. There's so much noise that the brain has to filter out so much. If we're not interesting right off the bat, we get filtered out.
You're working with individuals, you're working with companies. Let's take them kind of in those threads, because for an individual, it's how do I introduce myself? Going to a networking event. And just like you said, instead of it being your title, what's a story? What's a memory dart that you can use to open up and have that really meaningful conversation and really engage? For companies and corporate leaders, it's how do I tell the story of a product, a service, your differentiating, factors as a business. Talk about the different uses when you get into this conversation around clarity for individuals and for businesses and organizations.
Fundamentally, it's the same ideas. So what we have to do, whether we're an individual or a company, is we have to get right to the point and say, here's what we do and why we're uniquely valuable, really compressed. Then what we want to be able to do quickly is to tell an origin story. How did I get to this point? What led me to this point? And you can turn that into a very compressed 30 to 45 second narrative. And then you also want to have in your pocket another couple of memory darts of success stories. Let me tell you how this worked. And when you're equipped with a very brief way of introducing yourself that makes people go, huh, tell me more about that. And you have a nice little package of an origin story and a couple success stories, you can walk into any situation, an interview, a sales pitch, a networking meeting, a city current meeting, and you can confidently say, here's what I'm all about. And for an introvert like me, that's helpful. I don't like to be sitting in a kind of an unstructured environment, not knowing what to say. Everybody's better when you have something clear and specific to say that really resonates with you and with the person you're talking to.
Carry that into your books because, as I mentioned at the onset, you've got two books. You've got Clarity Wins and you've got The Point. Give us some teasers on those books.
Clarity Wins was the first book I wrote, and I wrote Clarity Wins because I have this fundamental conviction that the best way to do any kind of business is referrals. Anytime I talk to people and say, what's the best approach to getting business? It's always referrals. But people don't have a strategy for referrals. And my approach is if you can plant your message, occupy the pigeonhole in somebody's mind that accurately depicts who you are. So for me, that's the king of clarity. People can refer you because you are memorable. So Clarity Wins is all about arriving at that clear brand identity and articulating it in those short bits. And it's still an incredibly relevant book. The other thing, though, when I finished Clarity Wins, I knew there was more to the topic of clear communications. And I had this crazy idea in my head that maybe there's a formula for all clear communications, every kind, internal comms, PR, project management. And so the Point book, which was released late 2023, is an actual formula for any human being to use to communicate with clarity. It's 4 rules and 8 tools. And you could take those and apply them to email, to presentations, to sales, to networking, to anything. And because a lot of my work has been with corporate clients, those 2 books form the basis of the workshops when I come in and teach people how to be great communicators. And then sometimes do group workshops with them on how to establish your personal brand and come up with your memory darts. So the process and the ideas are all the same, whether it's personal branding or company branding. We're human beings. We process information in a certain way, and we want to make our words effective.
What are your favorite questions to ask when you're sitting down with an organization or an individual and you're starting to gauge, okay, this is where they are, this is where we want to take them, these are the stories we want to unpack, maybe they need to go a little deeper over here, we've got some stats we can draw out over here. When you're creating these memory darts and you're looking at this formula, what are some of your favorite questions or the things that you're looking at to start building that foundation for success?
Yeah, my process when I consult with individuals or companies is I just ask a ton of questions. I'm curious. I'm just frankly really curious and fascinated by people and by work. And so I can think of questions like crazy. But the most important questions when arriving at clarity and arriving at memory darts are, tell me some of your success stories. Tell me situations where you felt really comfortable at a workplace or not comfortable. Tell me what you really like in a company and tell me what kind of customers really seem to benefit. And then one of the most important questions of all is, what do other people say about you? What are the key words that come up when people say, oh, well, Jeremy, he's the master of this. Oh, Steve, he's the go-to for that. Once you start getting that stuff out on the table, it 100% of the time, certain themes begin to emerge, and those themes are the DNA, the wiring, the unique differentiators of that person or that company. And that's the magic power I have, is being a story asker, a questioner, and then just by the way of my brain being wired the way it is, I see the themes and I help people read the label of the jar they're in. Because for them, all these things are kind of scrambled around, and often you need an outside voice to pull it together. Just as I do with my mastermind, they help me get clarity because I get myself all confused. And so we all need the help of other people to look in and say, well, what about that? What about that? Have you thought about taking these skills and doing this? And sometimes that's the thing. Nobody's ever said, you're awesome, and you could actually do this instead of what you're doing now. And I love those moments.
And going back to that sports analogy, I think just like, you're talking about a coach, when you look at an athlete and the fundamentals and the practice, it relies on having good coaching. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. Outside counsel, good coaching. And so carry that into the coaching that you're doing with individuals, because you've got a special offer working with individuals and individuals really around anywhere around the world through Zoom. So talk about what you're doing with individuals.
So with individuals, I have boiled down my process to an even shorter than what I used to do. I used to work with individuals on a 2 to 4 hour basis. Not everybody can do that or afford that. So I realized I can get a lot done in 60 to 90 minutes. So I'm going to start offering 60 to 90-minute sessions with people for a fixed price. Intro price is $497. And at the end of that time, where I'm basically interviewing and we're brainstorming together, you're going to have a way of introducing yourself that you can use in networking, that you can use in interviewing, that you can use on your LinkedIn profile, because a lot of people, their LinkedIn profile has a very boring headline. And the best place where you can put a memory dart is right under your picture on LinkedIn, because everybody's skimming. And if your profile looks just like anybody else's, it's not going to stick. But if you have something sticky and kind of intriguing, you're going to cause people to stop. And so we can do that all within about 90 minutes. And then for people that want to go deeper into their brand, I can do 2-hour sessions. I can do workshops. I can do group sessions. I've sometimes done 1 or 2 days where we go into much more of the branding statements and all that. But the introductory memory darts can be done in just a very, very short time.
And the beauty of what you're talking about too is you look at like the LinkedIn title, that profile piece, that or an introduction that can lead to so many other things. So in other words, once you put the creative juices in motion and you realize, oh, wait a second, by tweaking this over here, well, I can take that same idea and start tweaking other things. And so I think it creates a cascading effect of more and more opportunities to just refine and evolve all of your different communication points and, make them much more concise and clear. And so I think that's where just having a starting point with the coaching will lead you in some really powerful opportunities to evolve and craft your message continually moving forward. Carry that into then the speaking and the books and where we can get those. How can we follow up with you? How do we carry this conversation forward?
Well, the books are available on Amazon. And so The Point was published by Morgan James. The first book, Clarity Wins, was self-published through Amazon. So they're both available there. And my website, stevewoodruff.com, is where people can contact me and see what sort of workshops I do. I love working with companies, equipping their teams. So I've worked with groups anywhere from 4 to 500 doing clarity sessions about email or about presenting or about getting to the point or personal branding. There are many offshoots. Once you start talking about clear communications, you're talking about how to do podcast communications, how to do good PowerPoint presentations. In fact, I was telling one guy in my mastermind about memory darts, and he was in the midst of creating a presentation. And he said, I went back to my PowerPoint and I made every single slide a memory dart. And I said, you get it, dude. That's the way you want to do a presentation, because most presentations are boring information dumps, and that doesn't help anybody. So I work with companies large and small because we all have the same problem. We have the same competition, which is the noise out there. And we all have something differentiating that needs to be expressed.
Mention again, because you never can say it enough in the world of media, but mention again your website and where do we go to learn more?
It's stevewoodruff.com. And then the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. That's where I do a lot of my writing. That's where I have my Clarity Blend newsletter that comes out weekly. That's where I highlight people and companies that do a great job with memory darts so people can actually envision what a good one looks like. So I'm active on other platforms, but LinkedIn is really the easiest place to find me. And then people are welcome to call, set up a half-hour discovery call if they want to get to know better what's going on. And I'm pretty easy to talk to. I don't bite, so I'm a nice guy.
Well, Steve Woodruff, the king of clarity, thank you for all you do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.